All right, well, thank you. Thank you for being here today. My name is Dan McGrath. I'm the Executive Director of Take Action Minnesota. Take Action Minnesota is an organization of 10,000 individuals and 30 organizational members across the state who are committed to social, racial, and economic justice. We have articulated and are actively working for a vision of Minnesota that moves us in a positive and new direction. And we're holding this press conference today because we have deep concerns about the economic policies and vision of our state that Tom Horner has been promoting on the campaign trail. Tom Horner has profited from his 30-year career by dividing people against each other on behalf of his corporate clients. The kind of state Tom Horner has demonstrated that he values is one where large corporations and big businesses are given breaks at the expense of working people, who are then left to fend for themselves. Tom Horner's state, Minnesota, treats its state budget like it's a math problem, rather than a vehicle for improving people's lives. It's the wrong direction for our state and for our future. Tom Horner is a PR professional who's done a good job of trying to position himself as a common-sense moderate with no personal political agenda. It's what he does for a living, and he's pretty good at it. Horner's agenda, though, is to stand up for the kind of mega corporations that have brought our country to the brink of economic collapse these last few years. For people in this state, for the people that are standing up here, common sense tells us that that's the wrong direction to go. So today, you're going to hear from a variety of Minnesotans who share a vision for what our state is capable of when we come together and when citizens and leaders hold each other accountable. We know that Tom Horner's political agenda is wrong for us and wrong for our state. Tom Horner's corporate clients have their own interests at heart, and they're often in stark contrast to the values and the interests of working people. The reality is Tom Horner's economic policies are cut from the same cloth as Tim Pawlenty and Tom Emmer. He believes corporations and big businesses are the primary vehicles to solving the problems that we're experiencing. We're here today because we know this is wrong for Minnesota. We've had a decade of this kind of vision, and it's failed the people of Minnesota. So let's be clear. Tom Horner has a political agenda. It's just not one that works for you or I. And it's not something that anyone in this room considers common sense. Now first, I want to bring up Gene Nichols. Gene Nichols is a leader in Take Action Minnesota and a resident of Shoreview.
Thank you, Dan. Well, I think it's quite appropriate for me to be here today. I am a resident of Shoreview. I pay taxes as a community organizer for Take Action Minnesota and a member of the board of directors. I have focused my work and attention on the disparities we still find in our state. That's health as well as economic disparities. The disparities between the richest versus the poorest Minnesotans will continue if Tom Horner's policies are allowed to be implemented. I've had to do some research since coming to the state some 8 years ago, relocating here at the request of 3M Company, and taking note of the changes since living here the first time in 87, 88, and 89. So what did I see? The changes were not very progressive. Over the past 2 decades, corporations and wealthy Minnesotans like Tom Horner have paid 0% of their income in taxes than the middle class and working class Minnesotans like me. That's regressive taxation. The rich pay less, the rest of us pay more. Tom Horner has spent 30 years as a corporate Republican insider. He has been a paid public relations guy hired by the CEOs of corporations to advocate for corporate interests. So I guess it's no surprise that his tax plan is for them to pay less and the rest of us to pay more. Tom Horner believes corporations should pay 0 in income taxes. Simultaneously, he wants to raise sales taxes, the most regressive taxes that fall the hardest on middle class and working class Minnesotans like myself. Now, I'm happy to pay for a little better Minnesota. I believe we are interconnected and interdependent people. Our problems are experienced together as a state, and our solutions must be created together. That means we need more revenue for the state, and sometimes that means taxes. What I'm not happy about is that Tom Horner believes I should pay more, and corporations should pay less. There's something inherently wrong with that, and that's not common sense to me. And I think it's dead wrong that Tom Horner has been taking money from those corporations for years and is now representing their interests and not the middle-class Minnesotans like myself. On top of it all, Tom Horner wants and believes waiters and waitresses should make a lower wage than other minimum wage workers. So this widening gulf between rich versus poor should not be allowed to continue.
Thanks, Gene. Next, I want to bring up Alan Parrish, who is a retired dairy farmer and township officer in Todd County.
Hello, and like Dan says, thank you, Dan. I'm Alan Parrish, and I started dairy farming full-time in the passing of my father back in 1966, and I retired about in 2004. I do have a young man milking using my facility that is organic, and he's doing actually quite well for himself compared to some of the neighbors that are conventional farmers and are having problems with the price of milk. I've been a township officer for just about completing my 24th year, and Minnesotans believe in a strong local democracy and in a family farm system. In Minnesota, townships have the right to set higher levels of standards than the state minimum standards on factory farms. This includes where they can be located and the size caps. Minnesota believes strongly in this type of local control and is a fundamental right. As a township officer and a farmer, I can say this is a good policy. Family farmers know they're township officers and they're not afraid of local control. Township government is the one closest to the people and should have the strong say in whether large-scale livestock confinements, which are often funded by outside investors, should be allowed in their community. In 2004, AgriGrowth Council and Governor Pawlenty teamed up to push a proposal to weaken local township control on factory farms. AgriGrowth is a lobbying group for big ag interests in our state, groups like Cargill, ADM, Monsanto, Syngenta, and the biggest of the big. This is part of the AgriGrowth Pawlenty agenda to attract more factory farms in Minnesota by centralizing permitting of the state on the state level and taking local government out of the picture. AgriGrowth's use of Tom Horner's PR firm, Himley Horner, was to push this on-democracy, anti-family farm agenda. It's simple. Tom Horner's work to make our corporate farm can force their way into local communities like mine and throughout the state by having effects on this matter. That's not common sense. I'm concerned that Tom Horner was associated with this work and still thinks exactly this is the attitude he will bring to the office if he's elected. The attitude that looks out for the corporate interests, not those of family farmers like me and other rural communities. Simply put, I think Tom Horner is on the side of corporate family farms, not the side of family farmers and rural communities. Minnesota's valued family farms and strong local democracy. Tom Horner profits from efforts of fundamentally undermining both these bedrock Minnesota values. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Alan. Now I want to bring up Brad. Brad Trom, who is a corn and soybean farmer from Blooming Prairie. Brad.
Thank you. My name is Brad Trom, and I farm in Dodge County along with my father and my younger brother. We grow corn and soybeans. Dodge County is about 30 miles west of Rochester in southeastern Minnesota. I took the day off from harvesting today because Tom Horner's values and big corporate agenda are a threat to family farmers across the state of Minnesota. Here's my story. New Jersey investors proposed a factory farm dairy, 3,000 cow operations in my community in Ripley Township, Dodge County. This would have meant over 30 million gallons of liquid manure stored in open-air lagoons in my community. It would have meant tearing up our township roads, which are not designed for the weight of trucks in and out of such a large factory farm every day. It would have meant putting small family farm operations out of business. This was unwanted by farmers like myself and the vast majority of other rural residents, and we spoke up and fought this proposal day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year for 4 straight years. The Paletti administration and the Minnesota Agri-Growth Council worked to try and force this factory farm upon our community. Agri-Growth is a lobby group for the big ag interests in our state. Groups like Cargill, ADM, Monsanto, Syngenta, the biggest of the big. Agri-Growth bussed several busloads of corporate ag interests into our community from around the state in an attempt to override the will of the farmers and rural residents in Ripley Township. Tom Horner's PR firm, Himley Horner, did PR work for Agri-Growth on the issues of weakening our township's rights to have a say on factory farm issues. This concerns me. Tom Horner says he has no agenda and it is about common sense, but Tom Horner is on the side of corporate agriculture, not family farmers like me. A core value of local democracy is that all Minnesotans, especially family farmers and rural residents, have the right to control their livelihoods. But I don't think Tom Horner believes this. He thinks corporations should be in charge, not local residents. And he's grown wealthy, working against farmers like me. Ultimately, Ripley Township enacted a township ordinance putting common sense limits on factory farms, and we stopped this proposal. Under a Horner administration, I think township rights on factory farm issues would be in jeopardy. Himley Horner, while he was there, worked directly for corporate interests and worked to weaken township local democracy, and that was wrong. That is not in line with what Minnesotans value. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brad. Next, I want to bring up Nell Iman, who is a registered nurse at Children's Hospitals and Clinics in Minneapolis. Go ahead, Nell.
Thank you. My name is Nell Iman, and I'm a registered nurse and a member of the Minnesota Nurses Association. I keep hearing that Tom Horner is a moderate candidate for governor, but all of his comments and actions prove otherwise. Working people in Minnesota already pay more of their income in taxes than the top 1%. But if Horner has his way, we will be paying taxes on our clothing as well. Nurses in the state buy their own uniforms, and if Tom Horner has his way, we'll be paying taxes on our clothing just to be able to go to work. And we'll be doing it so that wealthy Minnesotans can keep more of what they earn than the rest of us. We may not be able to find out exactly what clients Tom Horner represents, but I know who I represent, the patients of Minnesota. And I don't want a Minnesota governor who thinks of nurses as his adversaries, as Tom Horner has referred to us. We know that when we struck to advocate for safer staffing ratios in our Twin City hospitals so that we could better care for patients, Tom Horner was working behind the scenes for the Hospital Association as part of the PR team of Himley Horner that called us nurses emotional, greedy, and irresponsible. When asked if he would sign a nurse-to-patient ratio bill, Tom Horner said no. He says he believes that private industry, or rather his PR clients, should decide what patient care standards should be in the state of Minnesota. Nurses think it is irresponsible to tax working people more than those who can afford it. We think it's irresponsible to elect someone to governor when we have no idea who else he's taken money from in the last year. We think it's greedy to take contracts from any number of big corporations and then not even recuse yourself from dealings with them and from delivering big paybacks to them once elected governor. If standing up for patient safety makes nurses the adversary, who is Tom Horner working for?
Thank you. And last but not least is Kathleen Cotter, who is a single mom from St. Paul. So Kathleen.
I'm a single parent of 2 amazing daughters, and I'm grateful that I'm able to cover both of them on my health insurance. My older daughter just went back to school and now has health insurance for the first time in several years. I work for the state of Minnesota. I haven't had a raise in over 3 years, and with the state facing a $6 billion deficit, I'm not likely to get one anytime soon. My coworkers are being laid off, and the rest of us are being asked to do more with less. But until we can fund public schools decently, and until all Minnesotans have affordable health care, there is no room in the state budget for a new football stadium. It's a matter of priorities. Now, I love football as much as the next person, but when I heard that Tom Horner intends to push for a new taxpayer-funded Viking stadium while everyone else is sacrificing and cutting back, I got angry. I'm sorry, but using state tax dollars paid in by people like you and me to make Ziggy Wolf richer makes no sense in this economic environment. Tom Horner has profited from his association with the Vikings since 2000, when his firm, Himley Horner, began lobbying on behalf of the Vikings to get a new stadium built with public money. Fast forward to 2010, Tom Horner has grown rich from his firm's relationship with the Vikings. Not surprising, his first proposal on the campaign is to give the Vikings an average of $33 million a year for the next 40 years. That's over $1.2 billion Tom Horner wants to transfer to one of the richest men in America. Meanwhile, the gap between richest and poorest in this state continues to widen. That's not the kind of state I want to live in. Tom Horner has used the gubernatorial debates as one great big free stage to advance his clients' interests. There have been a dozen or so debates since the primary, and Tom Horner consistently recommends publicly subsidizing a new Viking stadium. Tom Horner has been a Republican insider for 30 years. Tom Horner's agenda is one that benefits big business and corporations at the expense of families like mine. It's wrong for Minnesota.
So I'm sure folks can hang around for a little bit if people do want to ask particular questions of our speakers, but are there any questions that people want to ask now?
Just so you guys mentioned here that he's standing with the kind of mega corporations that have brought the country on the brink of collapse. Can you be more specific? Because it's a pretty weighty allegation.
Look, obviously the challenge with Tom Horner is that he's refusing to give his client list. You can look at who he has been working with and get a very clear picture of who he stands with. The story of standing for a 30 million gallon liquid manure lagoon in rural Minnesota on behalf of the AgriGrowth Council is a clear demonstration of who his allies are and who he's been working for these last 30 years. It's significant stuff.
But does the AgriGrowth Council, has that brought the country on the brink of collapse?
Look, the point would be that Tom Horner has been working not in the interest of the people who he's now asking to elect him. He's been asking people to say, he's been saying to people, in fact, right, I'm the moderate common sense candidate. And what we know of his record, what we're able to discover, is that that's not the case, that this is someone who has, in fact, been working to divide people on the ground in our communities, in townships, from each other so that his corporate partners can benefit.
Can I add something?
Sure.
The problem that the nation's faced didn't come from false small family farms, small grocery stores, small car lots. It came from large corporate entities, and those are the people that he's siding with. It didn't come from small people. The problems that America faced didn't come from little people.
Other questions?
One other thing.
Yep.
What does it say that you're holding a news conference on Tom Horner, not Tom Emmer? Tom Emmer has pretty much the backing of Minnesota Forward, a corporate-backed group, Minnesota Chamber, the executive director of the Minnesota Business Partnership is backing Emmer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so why are you holding a news conference talking about Tom Horner as opposed to Tom Emmer?
There are two reasons. One is that I think till now, Tom Horner's gotten a free ride. People really haven't pushed this question of who it is that he's working for, and it's significant stuff. Tom Emmer is certainly a formidable candidate, and there certainly are a lot of things to be said about him. But Tom Horner has largely flown under the radar, and we have a number of concerns about who he's been working for. So that's what I would say. Any other questions? Steve?
You know, Mark Dayton has also said that he would support Viking Stadium.
Yeah. So the difference would be this, right? It's absolutely true that Mark Dayton has said he would support some public money for a Viking Stadium, but he's also been very clear about the fact that there are other priorities that need to be addressed, including education, healthcare, and job creation. Virtually the only policy idea that we've heard from Tom Horner comes from one of his former clients, and that's to build a massive new Viking Stadium and to subsidize it to the tune of $1.2 billion over the next 30 to 40 years. That's the fundamental difference between these two.